What's going on? I'm gonna be reading about maybe just one chapter or two out of a book called I Am Not the Body. And it's from talks from Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. And as I'm reading, I'm gonna stop here and there and give my perception on things, or comment on some things on my perception, because I feel like maybe a lot of people hear certain things to this nature, like this type of book, and they don't really relate to it, and maybe my perception on things could help somebody that could relate to me more. That's why I always say that perception is a tool, as being a human and being an individual on earth, and having a perception is like a way for God to see every angle of anything, and it's we can all look at one thing, but it's gonna be different angles and different perceptions on the way we view it. And I think that's our duty to give our perception, and so we could see things in a whole. And our perception is just one angle, but if everybody is giving their own perception, that makes a whole. You can say in a 360 degree circle, you have different angles and degrees in the angle, but every degree is like an individual's perception, and it makes up the whole to look at things, and so I'm just gonna start now, so don't mind when I stop. What I am giving you is Atma Yoga. I am not doing Bhakti Yoga. This is bhajans. It is happening. Go on by itself. Bhakti Yoga means a devotee trying to link up with God. It is not only going on here, it is going on everywhere, right from the ants. This means that everybody has that bhakti. Even an ant wants to live, which is the same as bhakti, but that ant does not know it. And that was a saying from Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. And this teaching slowly leads to silence. To be without words is the way to attain the absolute through devotion. Already. To be without words is the way to attain the absolute through devotion. So what I hear is it's like the words is like the crystallization of it, and it kind of limits it, but just this knowing. There's a knowing where it's like a broad thing. But many find not speaking intolerable. One's words flow under the influence of the mind's stature and its mental impressions. You rely on so many things, but your reliance on the knowledge that you are must paramount. Without such knowledge, who would recognize or describe the greatness of Ishwara and concede that his crown touches the sky? When your I am knowledge is present, there are infinite other possibilities. Consider that state before the body wakes up. Knowledge of that state is itself the initiation. To understand it, we must give it a name. But there is no resting place for a name in that state. There is nothing to name. Before waking up, there was only the supreme reality, which has no sense of being. Being appeared, and that appearance is the initiation of I amness. It's kind of what I'm getting is like giving something a name is I mean, we need to do that, because that's why we're here on earth, to see things, to study things, to learn. So we do give things names. But I think that's also a tool and kind of like a stepping stone to help us to see like the unseen and have that knowledge of the like what he's saying, like with like before waking. Like you need the waking to realize before waking. And like when you like say somebody's name is John, you're John now, but before the name John came up in one of your parents' mind, what were you before that? What you were in John. So that's kind of the same thing here, like having realization of that, what you are before being named John. This is what we're here for, to learn and to realize, and that's self-realization. A seeker of the absolute has to accept this initiation. The presence of your beingness has been taken not by a body-mind seeker, but by the wordless being itself. My sense of being and your sense of being is the same. Only words create a difference between us. Your beingness and my beingness are non-dual. Is this not the case? Are you convinced of this non-duality? You possess the knowledge of meeting me, and you have your own, your I am knowledge. Both are the same. One exists both before and after self-remembrance. And in this I amness, the difference between man and woman doesn't exist. The concepts of birth and death don't touch it. The ignorant individual does not know and therefore suffers pain. You give I amness the name birth, but it has no shape, only a taste. But who is it that has this self-taste? You can give it any name you like, but it is beyond name and form. It's kind of like we call something air. Air is it really air? Yeah, because we call it air, but is it really air? It's just something that we name, but in another language, it's another word for it. But air doesn't care if it's named air. It's just air. It just is. But calling it air is it's a way for us to like put an envelope around something, or like encase something and be able to study it. So that's why I say that it's like a tool. It's a tool for us to study, but not not to like hold on to it as like stamped, but this is a tool to name things, just like a scientist. They take things, they name it, then they study it, and so they can be able to look at it. But the issue can be is taking these things, naming it, studying it, and keeping it, instead of looking at it in a holistic way. Set aside useless thoughts, and then you will have peace. If any thought claims that you are the body, say to that thought, I am Atma, the self, formless, without modifications and pure. And tell the useless thought to go away. What will result in this practice is living samadhi, absorption, unification of mind. This living samadhi leads to the supreme natural state, which is boundless bliss and complete contentment. Sages have given great importance to this mind-free state, and you too are blessed with that pure state which cannot be touched by any blemish. I also want to say too, because I see he says that the living leads to the supreme natural state, a boundless bliss. And I know, like, when a lot of people hear like boundless bliss and like eternal happiness, and a lot of people get it twisted and think that it's about just feeling happy like 24/7 and just having a smile on your face 24/7 all day every day. But that's not what that means when these people talk about that. And that gives way for like these people that do like prosperity preaching, like law of attraction stuff. And it's nothing wrong with that. Law of attraction is cause and effect, but it gives people this false hope, because you're gonna get all of those things. You might do everything that law of attraction says, but when you might get everything that you ask for, and then after a year or so, when you have it, you find out you're still not happy. And this happiness that they're talking about is not smiling all day every day. This is talking about acceptance, meaning whatever happens, I'm gonna accept it. It's a happiness within, meaning I can have a bad day in a human sense, but within, I'm not gonna let this just take over me, and I'm just gonna attach to this whatever happened to me and hold it in. It's whatever comes, whether it's good or bad, I'm gonna accept it and then go through with it. However, because of the insistence of your mind, you suffer from endless pain and conflict. Because you have made the mind your guru, notions of the other's wrongdoings dominate, and you feel angry and hateful. You must save yourself from this. Remember that I amness is luminous and has no shape. The self is shapeless, radiant, sinless, and is of its own nature. The self is all-powerful and united. Live with self-confidence. Meditate on what you have heard. Whenever thought says something, take whatever is urgent, necessary, and useful, and forget the rest. If somebody meets you at the wrong time, you don't end up meeting this person. Similarly, thoughts consume your time unnecessarily. So you have to reject useless thoughts. If a thought complains about somebody, disconnect from that thought. Seek silence of the mind. Meditation is necessary to maintain consciousness without thoughts. Meditation is to give attention to attention. Hold on to your consciousness, the knowledge. Keep it pure with no thoughts or mental objects. You must develop oneness with your sense of being, which will then reveal all secrets, both inner and outer. With this meditation and knowing yourself to be the self, you will realize that joy is your very nature. In that state of Parabrahm, even the sense of I am witnessing dissolves into universal witness. The knowing of consciousness simply is without remembering it. And if you try to remember, you will forget. How many people have you met who can be said to be always embracing their beingness? That one who continually abides there doesn't talk about doing so. They simply abide as no body. When the body is not present, there is deep-seated pleasure, bliss, and relaxation, all of which the beingness experiences. The I am knowledge, which is not the body, but in the body, without abidance, suffering persists. Continue with your normal daily activities, but don't forget yourself. When you experience the bliss of the self, you will see the world like a pond without depth. Therefore, go about your daily life. You are not in bondage. Any bondage is merely the symptom of your assumed limitation. But for now, just for a moment, put aside this name and form and look at yourself. You are visible without looking. Next chapter, Beyond Birth and Death. Let us now consider the end of the body. The vital breath leaves the body and joins the air outside. Consciousness neither comes nor goes. If you heat water in a vessel on a stove, the water becomes so hot that you cannot touch it. You cannot see it. But when the fire goes out and the water cools, you can touch it comfortably. What has happened to the heat? Does it die? The self in the body is like warmth. When the body is cold, the self has no scope to go anywhere because it is everywhere. The self that occupies the entire space has no coming and no going. At the time of death, whatever you imagine will materialize. You will face what you have decided. You determine your faith. But actually, there is no death. The word death merely serves to scare you. You may use many tons of water, but can you consume all the water? Again, the same water rains down, and its source never dries up. The self never becomes less or more. The same self expresses as the knowledge you are. As long as you keep time with the aid of day and night and determine your life accordingly, and you think you were born and will one day die, self-knowledge has not dawned. As long as you measure your existence by a lifespan, you have not reached the ultimate. Remember, there is no coming and going for the self, but because of the mistaken identity with the mind, you falsely feel that it is coming and going. What comes and goes is born and dies. has no reality. You are not the body. If you believe you are the body and get mixed up in its desires, you will suffocate in the concept of death rather than dwell in the knowledge of self. Some ignorant people at the time of death panic and become preoccupied with rebirth, and they may even see fearful images based on their concepts. A devotee may see various sages, gods, and messengers of death. A sinner perceives evil and terror. It is evident to you that the food essence is present in the body, but you continue to overlook your beingness and think yourself to be a body. You will therefore experience death, birth and death, as pointed out by the Vedas. It is a rare seeker who understands that there is no birth, no death, no hell, and no heaven. This is one thing that I always, it's like a little, cause I remember one time I went to Dorney Park, and I remember like I forgot the name of the biggest roller coaster there, but we was online, me and my cousins, and it's like I realized like while I was on the line, it's like my heart is like around the heart area. You feel that feeling, like that nervousness, and you looking at the ride, and then you hear the people screaming, and you see how tall the ride is, and then like everything goes, it's like going through your head, like what can go wrong, and like, oh, what if this happened, and you just thinking about how you're feeling right now and the fear you're feeling, and it's like the closer you get. I remember one year I chickened out actually, and then I never did it, and then the next year the same thing happened, but I got on the ride this time, and this reminded me of like us having fear in life in general, like even with death, but with life in general, with like certain things that we fear, because we fear what we don't know. We fear it because of what's going on in our minds, like of what we don't know. So we just think of a bunch of stuff. But when I got on the ride, you feel the rush, the adrenaline rush while you're on it and everything. But when you get off the ride, you say to yourself like, oh wow, like that was fun, and like it wasn't that bad. And you might even want to get on it again. But that's the same thing with like life situations. Like we instead of having that fear, we just have to face things and just do it. And then you find out exactly when you do it, you be like, wow, that was nothing. Like I mean, I felt a little, uncomfortable, but it's over with now. And that's what I'm gonna go. Birth is a myth. One who abides by my words and observes well sees his or her birth as a myth. But such an occurrence is rare. Generally, people die with a body identity, believing themselves to be either a man or a woman, and they claim false doership. The Vedas, and indeed other scriptures, say that for the ignorant there is birth and death, and suffering for actions. And I wanna say too, like, because like in the Bible, like when you say the wages of sin is death, when they say that the wages of sin is death, the meaning for that is kind of like what this is saying, that if you believe that you can die and you believe that you're a body, then you will die. When you die, you will die, because you believe that you're a body. So the body dies, so then you will die if you believe you're a body. And that's what that, because sin, what we think is sin, like, oh, this person did this, then he sinned. In a broad sense, yeah, it might be a sin in that way, but it's kind of, it's you can be objective with it, because we don't know what's sin actually, because one thing could be good to you and then bad to somebody else. And so when you like sin, if you break it down with anything, means anything other than God, and God is not in this world. So they say, my kingdom is not of this world. So God is not in this world. So anything other than God is a sin. So if you think you're a body, you're sinning. If you think, even if you think you're doing something with your mind, and then, because a lot of people think that spirituality is like, oh, I do this and then I did this with the mind, and then I got this, and I did this ritual, and then I got this. But it might seem more spiritual because it's more subtler, and it's not like physical, like gross physical, but it's still Maya. It's still an illusion. So when we hear sin, anything other than, is not nothing like, it's not nothing specific like, oh, if you do this, then that's it. Anything other than God is a sin. So if you think worshiping something material, it's a sin. So, but when you know what God is, when you know yourself and you know what you truly are, that's when you have eternal life, because you can't die, because what you are doesn't die. So if you think you're a body and you die, you will die when the body dies, because that's what you think you are. Okay. When the dream ends, the king remembers that he is not a beggar. Similarly, when our beingness dissolves, we experience fullness, completeness. In the absence of this beingness, there is no experience, as the absolute has no sense of being. Birth occurs spontaneously without intention. Otherwise, birth would have been prevented in that state. Just let me repeat that. As the absolute, when our beingness dissolves, we experience fullness, completeness. In the absence of this beingness, there is no experiences. As the absolute has no sense of being, birth occurs spontaneously without intention. Otherwise, birth would have been prevented in that state. So think about this. When a lot of people say that when they die, they're not going to come back. But let's just say, like, things just, like him saying that the birth occurs spontaneously, think about when you go to sleep and you having a dream and it's just happening spontaneously. Like you couldn't control it. Like it just happened. So what if you was being born and you can't say that, I'm not coming back, because the dream just happened without you even knowing. Like that's kind of the same thing that was being said. Birth occurs spontaneously without intention. So, and it's like when you wake up, you have a knowingness, so you can say, oh, okay, no, I'm not gonna do this. So now, instead of like something just happening in a dream and you're just there, you just end up there in a dream. Now, waking up in the physical realm is like having a lucid dream. Like when you in a dream and you're lucid and it's like, oh, I know I'm dreaming. That's what becoming conscious and what they say like waking up. That's what's happening on the physical realm when you have self-realization. You're basically like lucid living on the physical realm. So it's like you're aware of what you are in that moment. Kind of like when you go in a dream and you have like a real lucid dream and you're like, oh wow, like I'm here. Instead of just having a dream and it's just happening out of nowhere. Okay. One who takes my words to heart has no experience of death. Even the birth, which was once assumed to be the truth, becomes false. Hence, the devotee arrives at the conviction that both birth and death are untrue. The knowledge I am doesn't die. The mind also doesn't die, but vanishes. The mind is that which says, I am the body. I often tell European visitors to consider the case of an astronaut in outer space who has adequate oxygen, but no food left. Would the astronaut return to Earth to inform his or her colleagues that he or she is dying? As long as there is a supply of food and water, the sense of being will be present. The Swami, which means the I am, will stay alive, just as a gas lighter needs gas. Consciousness needs food and water for energy. Every living being dies. Death is the ultimate achievement. And I want to say it before, because this might sound a certain way. I'm not promoting anybody to rush death or anything like that. We actually have to live. Like you have to deal with this. Like if you're here, you have to deal with this. That's what the goal is here, is to be here and to have true happiness, meaning dealing with this and still having happiness, even if good things are happening and bad things are happening. At your core, you still happiness. You still know who you are. So, and when it's time for you to go, you will go. So, we have to deal with this life. So, it's not about going early or taking away yourself or whatever, but we have to deal with this life. If you was born here, you was born here for a reason, for you to go through certain things, and whatever path you on, and to deal with this, and to learn from this. And this is Earth is for you to be able to look at yourself and to have self-realization. This is a chance to have self-realization. No matter how much times we do this, the ultimate, you have two purposes. You have your individual purpose with the ego and what you as a person might be good at, or what you feel you might want. But your ultimate purpose is self-realization, and to know what you are, who and what you are. That's every single person's ultimate purpose on earth. The realized know this, and through understanding what I am saying, you will become realized. Because a sage who is a knower of truth and beyond sin and merit, bodily death is regarded as a blissful celebration. A sage is one with self-knowledge whom death doesn't touch. For a sage, at the time of so-called death, the vital breath departs, the body falls away, and yet the sage is joyful. This separating of the body is most pleasurable. Consciousness becomes purer and purer, as there is peace and coolness. But this is not an extreme cold. Emotions and imaginings gradually disappear, and peace blossoms. In that peace, the vital breath leaves the body, and consciousness, which is like warmth, vanishes. When the doctor examines the body, they find it to be cold. On the day of my guru, 5 minutes before his passing, told all his disciples, "Now you meditate. Don't worry about me. Nothing is going to happen to me. I'm infinite and boundless. People will say that I am dead, but no, I am not coming to an end. I am merging in my infinite, boundless true self. Birth does not belong to anyone. It is the appearance of the three states. Therefore, we could say that the three states are born. When you know what was born, your knowledge will save you from birth. The realized are great, for they know birth is but a myth. They see how they existed before so-called birth. Thus, the riddle of birth gets solved, and their conviction becomes, I am unborn and ever existent. A rare seeker, a true disciple, ignores mere hearsay and follows his or her guru, and consequently considers the reality of so-called birth. The seeker inquires, I do not know about birth. Others have simply accused me of having been born. My so-called birth resulted in my being a man or woman. Are such accusations based on fact? Through this inquiry, we can wipe out the concept of birth and attain completeness or fullness. Others accept the idea of birth and act in the world for fruits and rewards. A real seeker is least interested in action for reward and truth, but seeks with discernment the validity of birth and death. And this word discernment, this is a big thing, because they say know thyself, and you have to, this is a knowing, like you have to really know. Like a true seeker is supposed to judge everything that you don't have blind faith. No, have a knowing faith, meaning don't just because somebody says something and it sounds good and you just want to agree with it because you think that's the right thing to do. No, test these things out and really so you can have a knowing within yourself, and it's no doubt in your, not even your mind, because anything your mind is gonna always just doubt, and that's actually what your mind is for. Is to doubt too. It's a tool. You're supposed to use your mind, not have your mind use you. So you can use your mind for discernment to and test these things out. And anything that you want to know, question it in every single way and test it out for yourself, so you can have a knowing for yourself within, where there's no doubt in you that whatever it is you believe, you know it. It's not a belief. And one way I would say, with like say birth and death, or you are not the mind, or you are not the body, or or any type of thing. The way you could test these things out is by meditating. And when I say meditating, I don't mean just closing your eyes and just saying a mantra. Meditate and observe what's happening. If your mind is going crazy, observe your mind, and when you can see that you are not your mind when you're observing it. And then when you're looking at your mind, you know within yourself that you're not your mind, because if you can see it, you know that it's not you. And then when you have that knowing, you can say, okay, I know what the mind is. I see it. It's not me. But now you can instead of putting the cart before the horse, you can put it in its proper place, and you are the ruler now of your mind instead of it ruling you. And you know that it's just a tool. It's not the all also. But it's a tool for the all to use. So discernment is a good thing. One with self-knowledge has no concern about losing the light and is fearless in the face of death. When the body perishes, there is no need for life. If you do not identify yourself with the true self, and instead identify with the body, know that the body will not remain for long. These are facts. Yeah. This is one time I was at a funeral, and like I had an epiphany. It was like I was at the wake, and I was looking at the body, and I'm looking at the body, I'm like, okay, so what are we saying that's gone? Like, let's just say that the person's name was John that was in the casket. I'm like, people are crying saying that this person is gone, but the person is. If you think that the person is a body, then the body's laying right here. Why do you think that person is gone if there's a full body right here? So that shows that we subconsciously know that we are not a body, because if that was the case, people wouldn't be crying because they're looking at the body right there. Because what if we said that about somebody that was asleep? Because they're not being responsive there, but you know that they're gonna wake up, and the spirit is gonna be active after they wake up. But we know that something that we can't see is what we're really missing. When we look at that body that's in the casket, we know that's what left. And These are facts, and in ignoring the truth, the ignorant follow the scriptures, work for fruit and reward, and so do not realize the self. Abide by my teaching. Follow the true religion and know yourself as always being the self prior to everything. Upon this firm foundation, you will slowly realize the meaning of this apparent coming and going, and therefore come to know your immortality. Pure awareness is formless, luminous, sinless. It is all-powerful and whole, and its nature is not affected by unreality. Live with self-confidence. Meditate on my words. Stand aloof from the mind, and you will discern the falsehood of concepts, ideas, and myths. And they say the falsehoods of concepts, ideas, and myths. Or everything, concepts, ideas, and myths, and mythology, and parables, and allegories. These are all stepping stones, or what they call pointers. The concept, the mythology, the allegory, this isn't the truth. It's something to point to the truth. It's like a conduit to get you to the truth. It's kind of like a rocket ship. Like, you got outer space, and the concept is like a rocket ship. It's like it shoots you to outer space, and then it comes back down. But you going outer space is like is the truth. It's like you can't really comprehend it, but you needed that concept or that mythology or allegory to take you there, and then it just comes back down. A lot what we do is we take the concepts and we take that as the ultimate truth, and then that's how you get like certain groups, and then certain religions. And I have nothing against religions, but we take the stories and we take those for absolute truth and stick with that, and don't even get like the real nutrients. It's kind of like you eating an apple, you see the apple, and you biting it, but what you ate, that apple is like, that's like the 1% of it, and like the real nutrients in it, and what you're actually getting from it is like you can't even really see it. Like the real nutrients, like you can't even see it. Like you see the red apple and everything, and it tastes good and everything, but like the nutrients and everything, it comes out after, and you don't even see it really. And it's like that's what you use to get you to want to eat it, and then you get the nutrients. That's kind of like what a concept, like the story and a concept, it gets you to eat it, but the real nutrients, you can't really see it. It's like you just have to, it's like this light bulb that just goes in your head, and it's like it lead, like the concept leads you to an epiphany, to have that realization. I am formless, unblemished, pure, spotless. I have no birth and death. However, in the absence of self-knowledge, you take the vanishing of consciousness as death. You see only the dead body. Wow. Universal manifest consciousness is invisible. It has no form and cannot die. Does the taste of hot, sweet, and sour have a shape? Are they visible? A substance could be said to have a shape, but not its qualities. When you see something, you gain knowledge about it. But is the knowledge itself visible? Can you show that knowledge to somebody? You can describe with words. This is exactly what I was just saying. You can describe with words your knowledge, but you cannot visually demonstrate your knowledge. Similarly, your beingness has neither shape nor form and can be called Bhagwan. Nobody can avoid death, so why not achieve the best before dying? If you have to face a tiger in a jungle, don't panic and die. Run towards the tiger without fear. That often scares the tiger away. Sages tell you not to die meekly, but to live with self-confidence and self-conviction. What was not but is appearing now is bound to vanish. Therefore, why fall at the feet of an impermanent thing in fear? Will you give attention to this truth? If death is inevitable, with which identity do you wish to die? You must decide that identity now. Your human existence appears to be so stable and changeless, but is dependent on the in and outflow of breath. In reality, it is not death, but the transcendence of feelings, emotions, and all modifications. All that occurs, warmth disappearing and cooling appearing. There is no pain during this transition. Such a peaceful exit is the result of following the great words. Although I am in the body is not my form. With this conviction, the warmth of I amness decreases and consciousness gets purer and purer. There is no death, only the disappearance of heat. It is that simple.